Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Ricky. This is my channel's Rickysfoods. So for today's video, we got a 14-pound full packer brisket that we got from Costco. I actually bought this online and they actually shipped it to my house, and I was surprised. It's actually a good brisket. It has a nice big flat. It's not thin at all. It's a prime, so that's going to be really good. That's pretty much it. We're going to keep it simple rubs. We're going to be going not low and slow, high and fast. I'm like kind of in the middle. I like to stick around the 250, 275, and after I wrap, I like to go higher, but we'll talk about that later on. And for this cook, we're actually going to be trying something new. Not too long ago, I watched a video from my Mad Scientist Barbecue. He goes into what Aaron Franklin does to keep his briskets like really good, because we all know he makes really good briskets. So he uses beef tallow when he wraps. He uses beef tallow, just puts it over the butcher paper. So that's what I will be trying today. If you guys watch my older videos, you guys know that I love fat. I was like, when I saw that video, I was like, man, that actually sounds good. So we'll be trying that. I mean, I know it's gonna come out really good, but we'll see that later on. So I'm gonna try and go step by step. I'm gonna try and talk as much, give you info about everything on what I do. But I kind of forget stuff, man, because I don't write down. I don't have no scripts or nothing like that. I just go by whatever I'm thinking. So there's a lot of stuff that I forget in my videos, and I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to get better at it, but hopefully the more videos I make, the better I get. So I hope you guys stick around to the end. And with that being said, guys, if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to my channel. We got some delicious stuff coming up. I just don't do barbecue. I like trying new things, new dishes. So if you're into that, consider subscribing to my channel. And with that being said, let's get into this cook. Alright guys, so here we have the 14-pound full packer brisket. So this brisket came out of the refrigerator like 15-20 minutes ago, so it's still nice and cold. So what that's gonna do is gonna make this brisket to trim it a lot easier than when it's room temperature. When it's nice and cold, the fat is not slippery. It's not slippery at all, so it'll be easier. You don't want to cut this at room temperature, even though I preferably do it cold. But when it's hot, it's just more dangerous with the knife. You don't want to cut yourself or something like that. So before we start trimming this brisket, let's talk about knives. So when I trim my briskets, I use two knives. One of them is the bony knife. This is gonna make it easier for me to get under the silver skin and trim that off. If I run into a tight spot trying to get some fat out, this is gonna help me a lot because the tip is very flexible. So I'm just gonna go in there and just trim the fat. And my second knife that I like to use when I'm trimming the brisket is this Dial Strong slicer. I think it's a 12-inch if I'm not mistaken. So with this knife, when I turn the brisket over on the top fat, I can just remove the fat with one stroke, and it's gonna be much easier to trim it. So I'll leave all the links on all the tools, all the barbecue tools that I use. I'll leave all the links down below in the description box. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and start trimming this brisket. Alright guys, so before we start trimming this brisket, I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about what I'm gonna do to this brisket, because there's a lot of good videos out there on YouTube that know how to trim a brisket better than I can. I'm just a backyard dude, so I do as best as I can. But if you guys wanna check out good videos out there, I'll link the videos down below. For example, we got All Things Barbecue. He has a really good competition brisket trim video. Harry Sue has a whole bunch of brisket videos, so you guys might want to check him out. My good friend Darren from Ash Chicken Barbecue, he has a good video about brisket too. He's also a comp guy. So like I said, I'll leave a link down below so you guys can check those videos out. So as for me, the first thing I like to tackle when I trim my brisket, it's the decal right here. So it's big, it's not gonna render at all. So I make sure I trim as much as I can, not all, but as much as I can. And then I look at the flat. This flat right here is nice and thick, so I won't be trimming that. But if you look at the other side over here, this side over here, let me switch. So this side over here is kind of thin, so that's gonna probably most likely is gonna crisp up. So I'm just gonna shape it up and get as much thickness of the flat. And then for the top part of the brisket, You know, everybody says keep it 1/4 inch. I just eyeball it. I like fat, so I won't take as much of it. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna start trimming this brisket. I'm gonna speed the video, and I'll see you back when I'm done with this. Let's go. Alright guys, so as you can see for the bottom part, I'm happy with how it looks. So I trimmed some of the deck over here. Like I said, I wasn't gonna do a lot of it, so there's still some in there. And I removed some of the silver skin. You can take as much time you want to removing the silver skin, or you can take as less time you want. So it's up to you. A little bit of silver skin is not gonna hurt at all. Alright guys, so for this tip over here, you guys saw me like shaping it up. So that's because I didn't want the thinner, because I think this part over here, it was like a little bit too thin. That's gonna just get crisp up, it's gonna dry it out. So that's why I rounded it up, keep it aerodynamic, and I'm happy with this part. So now I'm just gonna switch it over. So now I'm just gonna flip it over and work on the top part. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Alright guys, so when I season my brisket, I like to start with the bottom side first and then work my way up to the top part. And for as a binder, today we're going to be using mustard. And usually I like Worcestershire sauce, but I don't got any, so I'm just going to use mustard. But to be honest, it's the same thing. There's no difference. So whenever you use your mustard, you're not going to take the mustard. The purpose for a binder is to basically just to make sure that the rub sticks to the meat. So let's go ahead and add the mustard. Just a healthy slab. That should be good enough. And then rub it all over your brisket. Alright. And then, so today I'll be using Nelson Wrap, the brisket rub. This is very heavy on pepper, so that's why I like this rub. It has a little bit of rosemary in there too, salt and sugar. So the sugar is going to help a lot with the bark, but you have to make sure you be careful when you use a rub that has a lot of sugar, because if you cook too fat, obviously hot and sugar don't really mesh together very well, so just be careful with that. But if you're just starting out with the brisket, first time cooking it a few times, salt and pepper, man, that's good enough. I'm a big fan of just salt and pepper, but today I'll be using the brisket rub. So let's go ahead and add this to the brisket. And also guys, don't be afraid of putting a lot of rub to your brisket. It's a big protein, so I can handle it. Get the sides, push it in. All right, and then just slap it down, push it in there. Don't rub it, because if you rub it, it's just gonna clump the rub. So just make sure you just pat it down. And the sides, don't forget about the sides. A little bit more over here on the back. So that's pretty much it, guys. Alright guys, so now I'm just gonna switch it. So now I'm just gonna rotate to the top part, and I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna speed up the video for that. And next time you see me, we're gonna be turning on the kettle. So I'll see you guys back in a bit. Our brisket is ready. It's already trimmed up. We added a rub already, so it's ready to hit the kettle. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit over the trimmings over here. So as you can see, I took a lot of fat, a lot of meat from the brisket, but all this, you can salvage this. You can make with the meat, you can make sausages with this. You can make burgers, just grind it up. And with the fat, I'm gonna make some beef tallow. I have another bag in my freezer from a previous brisket. So now with this brisket, that should have enough for that. So make sure whenever you're making the brisket, save those fats, save the meat. You can make so much with that. So with that being said, I'm gonna move you over to the kettle so we can turn the fire. So let's go ahead and do that right now. All right, so this is my setup using the SNS Kettle. We got the Slow and Sear right there. We got some Jealous Devil extra large briquettes. These were last year for a long time, so that's why I like using the extra large. We got the Slow and Sear almost fill up, and then the top corner over there, I'm gonna put some briquettes I already lit up. Put them right there in the top corner, and that's just gonna slowly transfer over to the right. We got a couple chunks of hickory, just so we can get some smoke on the brisket. Hickory is my favorite kind of wood to use when I'm cooking big proteins like brisket. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it guys. So I'm gonna light it up, and once I put the charcoal over there, I'm gonna put hot water on the water reservoir right there in the middle, and that's about it guys. So I'll see you guys back in a bit as soon as I turn this kettle on. Alright guys, so I got the brisket inside the kettle already. It just fits perfectly. I got the thickest part of the brisket towards the fire over there, and then I got the ambient probe over here just so I can monitor the temps from my cell phone. I'm using the Inkbird for this one, and that's pretty much it guys. So I'm gonna just leave this brisket for 2 or 3 hours. I'll wake up in about 2 or 3 hours, come back out here, check on it, check the temps, make sure it's not drying up on me. If it is, I'll spritz it. And that's about it guys, so I'll see you guys back in about 2 or 3 hours. Alright guys, so this is my favorite way to run the kettle when I'm cooking at 275 to 250. I like to keep the top vent like 1/4 inch open, and then the bottom vent, those are shut down, those are closed. But if you look on the left side, let me zoom in, that's a smoke hole right there. So I got that open. So having that open all the way, and having the top vent a 1/4 inch open, that gives me like a perfect, it's gonna stay in between 250 275. Right now the kettle's running at 252, and if you look over here, it's almost the same thing. So here it looks like it's almost at 260 around there. So that's the way I like to run my vents, but it depends on weather wise, if it's windy or not. So my settings might be different at where you live at, so just play around with it. I mean, get to know your grill and you'll be good with it. So after this guys, I'm gonna leave this alone for about 3 hours, and I'll come back out here just to check on the brisket. Alright, so after 2 hours and a half, this is how the brisket is looking. This looks good, smells good actually. With some little, so I like how it's looking right now. So I'm gonna give it a quick spritz and probably come back for another 2 hours, 3 hours, and check on it. And that's pretty much it guys. We still got some charcoal in there, so that's gonna last me at least 4 more hours. So I'm not gonna add no more charcoal right now. So I'm just gonna leave it as is. I'm just gonna give it a quick spritz, close it back up before the fire gets too hot, and call it. So I'm just spritzing with some equal parts water and apple juice. That's pretty much it. Alright guys, so I'm gonna finish spritzing this brisket, and I'll see you guys back about in 2 hours. Alright guys, so after 5 hours, this is how the brisket looks. I love how it looks, love the color. I did add it foil over here, so just so I can protect the point. It's starting to crisp up a little bit, so I think I want to get more dark over here, so that's the purpose of this foil. That's a little bit of water over here, so we're just gonna tilt the brisket so we can get rid of that. We want that way we can have a nice spark. And then for the charcoal, we're gonna add more right now, so I'm just gonna put that to the side and add new one on the other side. So let's go ahead and start doing that right now. Alright, so we just added more fuel, so that should be enough to finish this cook. I spritzed the brisket as well. And then if you guys are wondering what's the internal temperature of the brisket, right now we're sitting at, in the flat, We're sitting at 156, 160 probably, 158. So that's on the flat. Then on the point, we're sitting at the same. So I'll see you guys back in about 2 hours. Alright, so it's been about 3 hours and here's the brisket. I love the color. So I'm gonna wrap it up right now. So let's check some temperatures. So right here in the point, it's reading at 171, 172. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'll be using bone marrow to wrap the paper. So I'm just gonna slather over the paper on top of the brisket and the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Alright guys, so here we have the brisket wrapped with bone marrow and the butcher paper. So now I'm just going to put it back in the kettle. I'm going to raise, like I said, I'm going to raise the temperature to 300, 320. And then I'm going to put a probe in the brisket. So when it reaches 200, I'll come back out here and probe the brisket. So I'll see you guys back when it hits 200. Alright guys, so here's the brisket back inside the kettle. So as you guys can see, I'll put a probe in there just so I can monitor the temps of the brisket. So once it hits 200, I'll come back out here and just check on it. So I just poke it. So if it's slicing like butter, it's done. So I'll see you guys back then when it's time to check on it. Alright guys, so we're at 12 hours, about 2 hours and a half. And the brisket is reading at, well, my Inkbird is reading at 205 now. So I already checked on it. It's going in like butter, but let's go ahead and do it again. There's no resistance at all. So right now it's reading 203, 204, so the same. So there's the flat over here. So let's check the flat. Flat's reading at 205. Okay, so 205. Back here is the point. And it's reading at 205 too. I'm gonna call that done. So now I'm just gonna take this inside, put it in the oven for about 2 or 3 hours, and then when you see me again, we're gonna come back out here and carve into this bad boy up. So I'll see you guys back at around 2 or 3 hours. Alright guys, so here we have the brisket. I let it rest for about 3 hours. It was still at 145, so it's still hot. So that's why I got a liner in the bottom and plastic so I don't get burned. So let's go ahead and open it up and see how it looks. Look at that, guys. Let me move this to the side. Alright, so here we have the brisket. It has an amazing color. The bark is perfect. It's nice and jiggly. And as you guys can see that. So I'm happy how the way it came out. Nothing seems to be like too crispy or nothing like that. So now I'm just gonna cut it through the middle or where the flat ends. So let's go ahead and find that. So to me it's gonna be right here. Let's cut it through the middle and see how it looks from the middle. Oh gosh, guys, that looks amazing. Oh, look at that, guys. I'm not even gonna squish it. I'm barely squishing it. Look at all the juice coming out. Has a perfect color. It's nice and moist. So let's go ahead and start cooking it up. And the flour over here, just remember guys, whenever you cut in the brisket, make sure you cut against the grain. So the grains on this one, it's going this way. So I'm gonna make sure and cut it the opposite way. So let's go ahead and start cutting right now. Alright guys, so we got a piece of the flat right here. Same thing, perfect smart grain, the fat render. It's holding on its own weight. And then let's see if it claps. Oh yeah. So flat came out good. Let's see if it pulls. Oh yeah, perfect, guys. So that's the flat right there. Let me taste this flat real quick. Oh yeah, that's good. So I'm gonna move the flat to the right over here, and let's cut this point, because the point is the best part. So whenever you're cutting the point, make sure you rotate it 90 degrees, and just so you can cut against the grain, because the grains on the point is running different from the flat. So let's see how the point looks. Oh yeah, guys. That's money right there, guys. Look at this other one right here. So guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Brisket came out amazing. A little recap of this brisket. So it took about 13 hours to do, and we let it rest for about 3 hours. That was seasoned with Nielsen wrap, the brisket rub. And then I just wrapped the brisket whenever I was happy with the bark, which was, I think it was reading at 170. We wrapped it on butcher paper, and then we added a little bit of beef tallow, wrap it up, back to the smoker on the kettle, and until it was probe tender, guys. So as you guys can see, the flat came out amazing. Let me give you another demonstration. The flat came out amazing. Perfect brisket. I'm happy the way it looks. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave me a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm a lot. And leave me a comment below, guys. So like always, I'll see you in the next video.